Hi, and welcome to another episode of The Signal, where we talk about what it takes to win in high stakes, government shaped markets. So, we're going to take a little bit of a different tactic today, and we're going to walk you through a really important build versus buy decision when you're thinking about your AI journey. And so, I'm going to use a slide deck so that you can really understand and follow along with all of the important points that are in here. And I'm going to share the deck with you as notes for the show. But what we're going to be covering today is your AI bill. Anybody who's already invested in AI and already using it knows that there's some direct cost associated with it. And there's some limits that you need to consider when you're working with AI. So we're going to go through that in detail. Number one is that surprise bill. A lot of people don't realize that when they're looking at the efficiency promise of implementing a new technology, whether that's automation, AI, or anything else in the business, is that there are all these hidden costs that you don't really think about at first until you start actually using the tool. And in a lot of the businesses that I work with and that you're probably running right now, that calculation could be incredibly beneficial to you, but it also could be a real challenge and a real surprise at the end of the month. So nobody really likes getting that huge bill that they thought was going to be much lower than the cost of maybe some employees or other type of tools they could have invested in. Really? You have no idea what it actually costs to run new technology like AI until you do it. Let's talk about the reframe. Controlling costs is not using less AI. It's actually matching the model to the task that you're trying to achieve. And so what that means is I'm going to walk you through ways that we do that here at Outbound SOS and how you too can do it at your business. Well, first, it's important to understand what a token is. So token is the unit of measurement used by virtually all, if not all, AI tools out there. And what it does is it actually measures the exact amount of thinking and inputs and outputs that is required by a system to actually work. So think of a token as representing the thought process behind that AI. If you use like ChatGPT or Claude or something and you see on the screen, you see it thinking and it's working and working, it's consuming tokens. Okay. And think about it as tokens equal about, 0.75 of a word. Okay. It's a really easy formula that you can work with. Pretty much all the tools use the same thing and they charge based on that as well. What this means is you're looking at, there's something that you don't really think about though, is that every time you send a word and you send a chat into a tool or a request for some work done in your AI agent, you're using up about 1/5 of the resources it takes for that tool to give you back an output that you can use. So this is a measure that we're going to be talking about with input and output costs. So long, chatty, fully rich and dense responses that you get back, those are the ones that are going to really cost you in your budget. And when you move to fully automated agentic AI, then what's going to happen is that there are a lot of these long chatty answers that are happening behind the scenes. And this is important for your team to get the maximum value and the maximum productivity out of what they do. But it's also where you can really get in trouble. We have a solution for that. But first, you need to understand what that solution is actually for. When you're looking at AI models, there are the premium models. These are going to be like Close Opus or any other tools like Thinking or Pro versions. Okay. These are premium models and they're going to consume a lot more tokens than your workhorse. So your regular models or the budget ones. If you just need quick answers like, hey, what's the weather today? Or something like that. Right. And it can cost you up to 20 to 100 times more for tokens for using those premium models. When you're looking at that task on a premium versus a budget model, the cost can be astronomically different. So think in this example, we took the same task, we ran the exact same task through 2 different models on the same tool, and it cost $1,000 in tokens in one test and then $42 on budget. So it's the same quality for the most simple work. Now, there are definitely tasks that require that premium effort, thought process, strategies, and stuff where it's not just a routine task and it's worth paying that extra. But if you're just defaulting to a premium model for everything, then you're spending a lot more than you should to get the same output. Now, you're also looking at newer models that are coming out from different companies. We're only told on the headlines about the premium brands that we know that are running the universe right now. But there is actually a disruption going on in the marketplace where there are budget models that act like premium, and that cost per token is going down significantly if you know how to manage them and input them into your system. So these are models from companies that are significantly cheaper, and yet they're still at almost the same premium quality. So you could just imagine how much more work you can get done for the same amount of budget if you understand how to integrate these models into what you're doing. There's a caveat though. The cheapest per token is not the only thing that you got to think about. You also have to think of sensitive data, where data is stored, where it's hosted, who has access to your company's information or your client's information. These are really, really important in businesses that I work with, because sometimes it's legally regulated that you have to store your data in a specific market or region, or you need to follow specific procedures where, let's say, having your data hosted in a place like China that is known for having government overreach with data, you can't afford to have that. So sometimes cheap is more costly than just the money, right? So you have to understand that as well. The framework that we look at in Outbound SOS is route by task, not by habit. So you pay a premium for judgment and you pay for a budget for volume. Now, in my case, that means when I'm doing premium strategies and consulting and I need that guidance with, the incredible thinking and knowledge, I'm going to use the premium highest model possible, and it's going to help me make decisions faster because I'm not having to put out that extra mental energy to research an entire market at the same time in order to make the decisions that I'm already doing in my head. Now, this is replacing work that I've done for 20 years as a consultant and business owner, and it's allowing me to make this stuff happen faster. However, if we're just doing regular tasks, like as an example, for one of the agents that I have is SOS Signals, and I have split it up into premium, budget, and workhorse models. And one of those budget ones is doing online, like web scraping research, that kind of stuff, so that I'm always alerted when a government agency is launching a new budget or making a vote on a specific topic. Now, we're going to use the budget models for that type of thing. But then when we're looking at creating a live ICP and updating the live ICP on a monthly basis for our clients, and for those that don't know, live ICP is a living ideal customer profile document that dictates whether, like, how an account is scored, how important an account is to work with. And what we're going to do is those types of tasks of understanding and analyzing the data we get from the web scraper, that's going to be done through a more premium model. So on one hand, you have the premium model for judgment, highly important tasks that are strategic in nature. And then on the other, you have the workhorse of just doing the simple repetitive task over and over again that can be done easily by a low cost budget agent. And again, this is what I've just been talking about, is that you have the premium, that's analysis, scoring, judgment, like live ICP, and then budget, which is retrieval, parsing, extraction. And the token heavy work is really the cheap work. Funny enough, it kind of works out in our favor, doesn't it? The cascade now, how does this work? Most tokens, you're using the budget. So the things that have to be done en masse, remember I said I was talking about web scraping, okay? This is going to be searching out and looking at all of the different government agencies out there, and they're looking for which government agency is publishing council meeting minutes today. Okay, that's going to alert me, and that's going to be workhorse. It's always working, always looking, always scraping. Okay, that's number one. Then a workhorse is more of, okay, now that we take that data, now we have to read the documents that are there and parse out certain signals that are in those documents. That's going to be more of a workhorse because it requires a mix of high volume and judgment. But then when we do our monthly live ICP updates, we're looking at making important judgments about the analysis that we got back. So while the workhorse is learning what signals are actually happening, what's happening in those agencies, that's going to feed into your live ICP model, where you're going to be able to identify patterns. So if there is a lot of different agencies across a specific market that are all making decisions on, well, let's say, for example, a few years back, is that there was a lot of chatter about implementing route management tools, so route management software, to kind of create a almost Uber-like experience for the microtransit, paratransit buses. And that was actually managed through the innovation team because it was new and it was new to the market. It was something that didn't exist before. So there was a lot of new chatter coming up, and that was a real hot button out there in all the transit agencies moving towards this model. So that was something that if we were recognizing that those patterns were happening, that's going to update the live ICP. So if I'm selling that type of software, I'm going to have to recognize that there are specific characteristics, specific conversations, and specific signals that I need to look for in order to know exactly when that agency is going to buy. Okay. That's where we want to look at our judgment and our premium type model approach, because that's going to need to analyze that market, recognize those patterns, and make adjustments to send to the budget and the workhorse models. There's also caching. So there is, I'm sure if you've ever gone to a website and you've gone to a website multiple times, you'll notice that it loads much faster than if you go to a brand new website that you've never gone to before. That's because of caching. And caching is something where it's basically stores a cookie on your computer, and it allows you to it allows the computer to do less work and the internet connection to do less work in order to deliver that web page. And it only tracks it if there are any changes that don't exist in the cache. This is really important in AI because, again, if an agent that I have, like my SOS Signals agent, is going into a government website every day or every week or whatever period that we actually decide, then it's not going to want to look at the same things over and over again. It already knows the structure of the page. It already knows where PDFs are held. It already knows which PDFs are the board minutes and which are the council votes and all the different types of documents that you're looking for. So it's already done that work. It doesn't need to do that work again and consume more tokens. Okay. And then there's also batching. I mentioned live ICP. We designed live ICP to batch once a month instead of once a day, because you don't need a thorough analysis of your market every single day in order to stay relevant. You track signals that are happening based on that monthly update, and then you batch that deeper analysis that requires the premium model into those. And we've actually had most of our clients like to do it once a week for live signals, and it makes it a little bit easier to be abreast of the market, understand what's going on in the market without having to consume a ton of tokens every time. So I hope this was helpful to you. I challenge you to do this week. I'd like you to look at your AI stack, what you have already. And it doesn't matter how complex or elaborate that your stack is. Just audit what hits your priciest model. What tasks are you doing that cost you the most? Okay. Push the simple work down a tier, and you'll know if it's simple work because you'll know how much easier it is for you. If you're not like abreast on technology, that's okay. Just think of what is the task that you can do, or an intern can do, or somebody on your team can do, just like it's nothing. Okay. Push those down to a simpler model. Don't you consume the highest models for those simple tasks, and then turn on caching so that when you're doing those repetitive tasks, it can remember over and over again the specific things that don't change in every time you're doing that research or you're doing that same project. Okay. And it can be pretty incredible what happens when you do that. This leads me to the end, is that if you've already read the draft of the high stakes AI playbook, you probably know this sounds very familiar, like the build, buy, or both decision. But if not, feel free to pick it up. You can request a free draft copy on the website, link in the comments, and read decision 4, because I think it's going to be very helpful to making this decision.